most of you guys probably don't have a lot of problems with your projects and scheduling, but maybe some of you do, right? Getting projects delivered on time or whatever. And reviewing and identifying problems early on. And so that's what I'm going to be talking about. I've been fortunate to be part of a group that includes project management teams from agencies, contractors, consulting firms, in developing a scheduling analytics. It makes it really easy to take construction schedules and just take a quick look at them. And I used to do this on spreadsheets, right? But now the data analytics tools are out there to help really make these things simple, or simple to use anyway, and taking this scheduled data that you have on projects and getting some practical and some actionable information out of it. So, one of the challenges that any agency or any organization has with managing projects, getting schedule information is, number one, is the information of any quality, right? And then if you're going to get that, you have to have training to do that. You have to have reporting in place for any scheduling, particularly that's what we're talking about in this session here, and then having compliance and all these kind of things that all the stakeholders on a project have to follow through with. And it's always a challenge. And so the goal that's the team that I've been working with the last few years has been to try to take all of these things and kind of overlay some simple solutions that would make it practical, right? In the last few years, there's several agencies, government agencies, that have developed guidelines to help agencies and contractors to get a grasp on construction schedules and improve quality of programs, things like that. And they've established guidelines with parameters and thresholds, and so that was obviously a starting place for our team. And we have started looking at some validation scoring modules, right? And I'm going to show you there are basically falls into two categories when you are looking at let's say a contractor schedule, or a contractor is trying to look at their schedule to see if they're any good. Number one, you want to look at the quality of the schedule, right, from a technical standpoint. And nobody really likes to look at that. It's pretty boring, actually, and I've been doing it for 35 years, and I still find it boring. But you need to know, right, is the contractor schedule any good, right? So you have to look at the quality. But then the second part of that is after, the contractor submits a schedule, how well are they following that schedule? What's going on? How are we proceeding as a project team in following that schedule? So the first group of, or the first score that our team has put together is what they call the schedule validation score. And that's just where you plug in a schedule. And there's every year there's a summit, and we go through all these different things that we look at from a schedule standpoint, logic, and all those things, and we give it a score. And so it makes it easy for an agency or a contractor to say, if you don't have this level of a score in a schedule, don't even submit it, right? It's in fact, we've taken this internally in our organization. We're a scheduling organization. And we just tell our team, you can't submit a schedule if you don't have an 85, for example. So I know if it's got a certain level score, then there's the quality component of it, and there's tools that you can use to clean it up. I used to do this stuff on spreadsheets. You can do it on spreadsheets, but there's tools now available that help you do it. And then once you start uploading, once a contractor sends in, they start updating their schedules, then you can start actually managing the second set of scores, what we call project scores or progress scores, right? How well is the contractor, performing on their work, right? On what they said they were going to do in their schedule. So one obviously is the finish date, right? What's the finish date look like? The second one is a critical path. Now, I don't know if you know much about a critical path, but in a schedule, you have a start point and then you're doing all of these functions that have to follow one another, and then boom, you have one point at the end where you're complete, right? Well, there is one path through all of those sequence of tasks that is what they call the longest path. So what I want to look at each month when I'm reviewing a schedule is, this is where I should be on that longest path as of today, and how is the contractor doing on that, right? So the critical path, what we call the critical path variance, because here's what happens a lot of times, right? A contractor says, we're going to finish this, we're going to finish in 300 days, right? Well, last month, based on where I should have been right now, I'm already a month behind, right? Or 3 weeks behind, but my finish date didn't move. What happens is, a lot of times I should be where B says I'm supposed to be, and C is my finish date. Well, the next month I've slipped, right? What they call the critical path. I've fallen behind schedule, but my end date didn't move yet. So the contractor's reporting on schedule, but the only way that can happen is if you're compressing activities toward the end, right? So sure enough, sometimes that happens, and you get so far behind schedule that there's basically no way you can catch up. So what we tried to do in our team is come up with a way to measure what's going that and just identify it. Real simple, right? So there is what they call a critical path variance, where we look at, here is January, and then the contractor submits February, and it looks at the January and says, okay, you should be right here today on that longest path, and it's slipped. And if that end date didn't move, you know that there's trouble ahead. So it looks at that compression. And then the next score that our team put together is what we call an execution score. And it says, here is what the contractors last month said they were going to execute this month. And here, they were going to perform these 20 tasks. And of those tasks, what percentage of those did they actually start, and what percentage of those that they said they were going to finish? How many of those did they actually finish? And you come up with what they call an execution index, this is one of those that the Defense Contractor Management, one of the major government agencies that help implement these types of scores. This kind of follows that protocol. And it looks at it and says, hey, Mr. Contractor, you only executed 45% of what you said you were going to do last month, right? And if you're executing only 45% of what you said last month, or as that previous one was showing, you're falling behind on what you said you were going to do last month, how can we have confidence in what you're saying you're going to do, in a year from now? So that's the purpose of these scoring options. There's some other ones to look at, financial variances and things like that, and our team is currently working on some really good financial scores. These are very simple. They're not complicated, but it's trying to find that data, that construction schedule data, and simplify it so that it minimizes the requirement for training. It minimizes the requirement for technology implementation, and tries to make it very, very simple for agencies and contractors to just get good, clean data that's very actionable, right? It doesn't require a whole lot of work to look in there and see these scores. And then the trick is taking these scores and establishing trends, right? So if you get if you start getting these very simple to analyze scores, and you start putting them into trends, now all of a sudden data starts popping out. I mean, you can look at these and you can say, hey, look at all of this one on the right, for example, look at all of these milestones that are slipping and the end date's not moving, right? So obviously there's a lot of what we call compression in the scheduling world. There's a lot of compression going on. And so, being able to build these dashboards with these schedule scores and identifying trends. I mean, it is changing. It's amazing. It's been fun to do. It is changing the way project teams and, project executives are able to look at a project. It's been a hoot being involved in it, just to be honest with you. Getting to go to these summits and getting the feedback from from people that are using these things. Then obviously applying those across an enterprise, across a big group to see how our total group is doing, how my team is doing, and how, you know, my particular project is doing or whatever. And then being able to identify, the key is to, for actionable, you know, one of our goals is how do we identify problems early enough so that we can come up with a good resolution and get problems solved so it doesn't get too late, right? Resolving issues early is obviously the best deal. And that's all I wanted to share with you today. I don't know if I took my full time, but you know, if you guys have any questions about our team, some of the people involved, it's been a lot of fun, and seeing how we take this data and making it real simple to use. We'd love to talk to you. I'm out here in the corner over here, and would love to talk to you some more.